and I have solar. I mean, I'm not totally against it, but man, you want to talk about the devastation raping Mother Earth, and being on God's green earth, I have a hard time with it. Especially when the money doesn't come back in the long run up to snuff to us in Saguache County to give up that land.
In reduced utility bills.
And reduce utility bills.
If anything,
reduce something.
Utility bills are going to go up.
You do believe?
I believe that your utility bills are going to go up.
Why do you think that? Welcome back to Creststone Podcast Radio, your lifeline to the true news on God's green earth. We have an awareness and an update for all of you out there in the Saguache County that needs to be paying attention to this. Friday, February 28th from 6 to 7 at the Saguache County Road and Bridge, they will be holding a meeting about the Sand Dunes Solar Farm. 170 megawatt solar farm site on 1,000 acres of land located near Moffett, about southwest 5 miles outside of Moffett, which puts it right there in between 17 and the Baca. We're going to break ground and a little bit more onto this, but let me finish reading this here. The Ground Monument Solar Generation Facility will be unable to provide a reliable, cost-effective, and clean energy to power the equivalent of 34,000 homes. Now, a lot of you should be concerned about the migration of our animals and the property and devastation that it's going to have, especially when they ask you to put a low glare reflective metal on your roof when these solar panels are going to be shining a lot of light and a lot of glare to the people up above flying, and a certain time and a certain daylight, you're going to see that glare. We're going to bring you a little bit more clarity of the positives and negatives about this solar farm with Josh Lowenstein, a man that has been working on a lot of different topics, not just this, and bringing awareness to this and the power lines coming through here in the San Luis Valley, and also the war on beef. Just because Trump is in office doesn't mean it's all over. And he is actually the co-founder of Our American Lands, right here, Our American Lands. And I want to bring in right now Josh Lowenstein.
Hi, Jeff. How are you doing today?
We're great, man. How about yourself?
I'm doing all right. So I got asked by a person to participate in this meeting that's next week here in Saguache County at the Road and Bridge facility for the county commissioners, talking about changing statutes to be able to streamline a giant solar project. And when I was asked to do this, people had concerns and reservations about giant projects like this coming into Saguache County. And there's also a similar proposal, maybe not quite at this stage yet, down in Conejos County where I live. And it's kind of important to talk about what the actual pros and cons are of such a project. And the first one is will a solar project of type actually benefit this community? Will the energy from it be for the people of Saguache County and Creststone area?
How much money would actually come back into people's pockets and save on their cost of energy?
Well, and if from what you were saying in your opening there about the tax credits to the county, now if the county is benefiting from some revenue coming in from the solar energy company,
right?
How is that being disseminated to the people of Saguache County? Is that just being put into other projects that may or may not, once again, have any direct benefit? And if there is energy being provided to the people of Saguache County and or anywhere else in the San Luis Valley for such a giant project, you think it would be more than just Saguache County? Is there going to be a direct? Are the people of of the San Luis Valley actually going to have a lower utility bill, or is the energy company that's doing this project going to jack up the energy cost to help pay for the cost of putting it up?
Right. And then 34,000 houses, they say that it's equivalent to power. What will it be powering? Will it be going outside of Colorado and powering Nevada, Arizona? From everything that I've read, that there's a lot of power being shot out elsewhere. You know, I don't mind helping out our neighbors, right? With power. And then the reason why they're putting it here is because of why, Josh?
Well, gee whiz, we're at 8,000 feet around here, and we get a lot of days of sunshine, and we generally don't have hailstorms and tornadoes.
And we also get twice as much energy out of our panels because we're up at this elevation, and we have more sun than anything else. So they come from out of state, and this is actually an LLC company from London that is financing this, that's backed out of a contracting company out of California, from everything I can read, that is bringing this to your front door into your beautiful San Luis Valley, and creating this havoc. Josh, what else do you have for us?
Well, I mean, there's any number of things as far as the procedural stuff in relation to asking the community to, and or the landowner that's going to be leasing this land to the energy company. Basically, there are so many different facets to this, like NEPA study. Will they be doing the National Environmental Policy Act study in relation to this project? Will there be any wildlife corridors affected by this project? Will there be problems with the glare coming off these solar panels, blasting out the eyeballs of people here in the Crestone area?
Correct.
When the sun just hits these things just so, and will that affect, people's quality of living around here? And also the view shed around this, that means just the area of people affected by the visual, just the existence of this project. Will their view shed be harmed by this project? People that may live on the far side of this project looking up here at the beautiful Santa Cristos, is that going to get where it's being blocked by crazy reflections and light and things like that? I mean, people deserve to not have that in the way of their view of these beautiful mountains and all of this. I mean, why do they think they moved to this area? Why do they think they've been living here their whole lives?
Right. And fighting something like this is sort of like fighting that tower that went into Villa Grove. And that's really a hard thing to fight when, with, all this money, and we're just the wee little people. But I think if we all go to the Road and Bridge Friday, February 28th at 6 p.m. to 7 p.m., we can make a difference or overload their Zoom call. The Zoom call is still being set up right now. I did do some research. No farther outlook, and probably until Monday. Hopefully, they're going to get to it here soon to fix that Zoom link for us to be able to not drive all the way there. If there are people that are driving out there that way, maybe you guys can carpool to save on some gas and petrol. But I also wanted to say that the developers proposed a $13 million tax benefit to the county over 20 years. That is just $650K a year, which won't even pave a mile of road. Okay? Just take a look at that. And I'd like to see more money for our county, considering the projects and investments of $250 million, right? I feel like a lot of us need a little bit more understanding on where we're going with the money that's being brought in and who's getting it and how it's being divvied out right now. tell you the truth. You know, I mean, sorry to be like a Doge moment right there, but that's, I mean,
Well,
go ahead.
The question is one of the things, a whole community has to suffer the dust and the construction and the glare and the potential harm that can come from having a project like this.
Correct.
And if you really want this community to rally around this, I would think that there should be a contractual agreement between the community, the individual people that live in this county, and the power companies and the county itself, that they will see reductions on their utility bills. Why not? I mean, they claim that solar energy is free. The sun's shining. Doesn't cost anything for the sun to shine.
Well, it's really free when we have apathy and we can turn our eyes away and not look exactly how these panels are actually made, right? And how we rape and mine the earth, and we take little children and poor third world countries out there and put them into slavery for few pennies a day. A few pennies a day. I was like, not even $1, I was going to say. So a day, and you guys are sitting here just high in luxury because it doesn't concern you, and we want it to concern you. We want you to stand up. We want you to voice your opinion, even if it's like a positive outlook.
Sure.
Then come speak at the county road and bridge. But more people that we can have stand up at this particular point in juncture about any topic, really, the more of a chance we have to change or to have a better outcome in the future for not just ourselves, but for future generations.
Well, I mean, there's lots of people that are protesting a lot of items that are made in China because the Uyghurs are the poor slave labor force that does a lot of the manual labor kind of jobs in China, and you protest that. But what do you do about the children in Africa that by hand are doing the cobalt and lithium mining to create the battery storage systems for a giant solar project like this? Will you protest that and demand that we don't get the lithium battery packs to do this from countries like that are basically doing child slave labor? Now, you can claim that there's lots of slave labor going on all over the country, but it doesn't stop you from putting on that pair of shoes that you're wearing and driving the car that you got. And so many of the auto parts come from, the slave labor kind of countries. But the next question is when it comes to the lithium systems, these lithium cobalt batteries, and they're talking about putting in giant battery packs.
Correct.
That's associated with this solar project. And those lithium battery systems have a history of having all kinds of fire issues where they short out from being some often temperature related, where they get too hot or they get too cold. They fail to work correctly. They fail to store the energy correctly. And they definitely have huge problems when they catch on fire. And like, for example, the Moss Landing
I was reading about
power
that.
plant in Monterey, California, and that was a power storage facility out there, and it caught on fire and basically knocked that whole place out of commission, because once lithium starts on fire, you got to let it burn out and there's nothing left.
And what would you think if something would happen around here with the wind that it goes off, and it's something like that? You can't put it out. You can't foam it out. You can't do any of those things. It would just grow. And with the wind around here, do you think that's really safe that close, even though it's on the National Forest Service area for the sand dunes? I mean, come on. Wow. And then during the meeting, the number of people, I quote, the number of people employed at the proposed facility was discussed, as we were just talking about how many people.
Well, the long term,
Yeah,
the
long term, right?
amount of employment
Exactly.
is exactly one person
Well,
to do the
yeah,
the maintenance
yeah.
on this
Okay,
this system.
so I'm going to read to you exactly what comes off their document. Okay, Valco offered as an estimate of up to 1,500 roughly for the development of that site. The number includes off-site jobs created by the project. So off-site jobs, like we were talking earlier about this. Where's those off-site jobs?
Where is that?
Are they creating the jobs over there in China, over there in Africa,
Or
getting the cobalt, the lithium, or are they just sitting at home
in other states where this power might be going to? We don't know if it's for, we don't even know if this power is going to be used for Saguache County or San Luis Valley at all. We don't know.
Oh, well, it could be just people just sitting on the couch taking our money away from us too.
Yeah, well, that's true too.
Because we've seen that in the last
or just
few weeks.
empty promises of jobs.
Exactly. Yeah. So let me continue. Michael McKean, who will oversee construction, offered that all the peak of employment at the workforce ramps up to about 250 people. A documented handout to the public includes projects of this size are expected to provide approximately 2,000 direct and indirect jobs during constructions and operational phase. But I was reading, so they kind of contradict themselves, and they said it's going to take 2,000 people, and then by the time it was all done and built, there's only one person at the end. And then how many square feet and how many panels? You came up with came up with the math, and how many panels and how many for 1,000 square
for 300 acres? It's approximately 300,000 panels will be squeezed into 300 acres, and this is 1,000 acres. So it's rough estimate here, somewhere around 1 million panels. There's going to be, and then subtract, I guess, a little for the fact that they're going to have to put in these shipping container sized facilities to put these battery storage packs. And I don't know if it's going to be all on the same ground, or they're going to have an additional piece of ground to put the battery storage systems in.
Right. So he said, how many panels?
About 1 million panels.
A million panels. Okay. You guys all know how bad it gets windy around here. And if you have solar panels in your yard, you know they get dusty. And when the dust collects on them, it brings down the voltage. That's a lot of solar panels out there to clean. Well, for just one person. I mean, it sounds something kind of fishy there. And the reason why they're going to create so many jobs, but all these jobs we don't have that many technicians and that many people out here that are that familiar with solar panels. So these are going to be outside companies that are bringing jobs in here. And then, well, they're going to be spending their paycheck here, but hey, we don't really need that here in the San Luis Valley. There's people out here hurting. We need to make more jobs. Hey, how about instead of sending our potatoes to Texas and bagging them and then sending them back to us and then paying an extremely amount of price, we build a freaking factory to bag our own damn potatoes. Here's another thing that I'm talking about. This is one more thing. Back to you, Josh.
Well, I mean, just one of the things about just solar energy in general is you're talking about if you average it out. So obviously when the sun ain't shining, it ain't producing nothing. You're relying then on the battery storage systems to be able to try and make up for that. But let's just say that you're figuring how much energy you're generating during a day on average.
Right.
Comparatively speaking to our coal and natural gas fired power plants, which are working 24/7, 365.
Right, with scrubbers on them, which no other country really runs scrubbers.
Yeah, we're running the darn cleanest, as far as the pollution coming out of these power plants. Correct. It's about as you can get as anywhere in the world.
Correct.
So the bottom line with this stuff is when you're figuring in the hours of the day, the time of year, of course, when we have shorter days, we get less energy out of a solar array. Then there's days when it's covered in snow.
Right.
There's also cloudy days. There's rainy days. So if you average that out based upon the base load, which is the base average amount of load, that doesn't include peak load energy, basically in comparison to a standard coal or natural gas-fired power plant, a solar array system gives you about 20% base load power, 20% of the base load that a natural gas or coal power plant gives you. So no matter how you slice it, you're 80% under what the capability is of a coal and natural gas-fired power plant. And I'm not necessarily saying that there isn't a place for solar energy. I believe in solar energy when people want to put it on their own homes and stuff. That's great. Do it. It's a great way to reduce some of the utility costs. You don't have to necessarily power your whole place with it, although you can.
Yeah, you can do
sure. You can be all completely off grid.
You can do substitution.
There's lots of ways to do that.
Yeah, and you can feed back to the system. There's
right.
And I have solar. I mean, I'm not totally against it, but man, you want to talk about the devastation raping Mother Earth and, being on God's green earth. I have a hard time with it, especially when the money doesn't come back in the long run up to snuff to us in Saguache County to give up that land.
In reduced utility bills.
And reduce utility bills.
If
or
anything,
reduce something.
Utility bills are going to go up.
You do believe?
I believe that your utility bills are going to go up.
Why do you think that?
Because they're going to try and recoup their $250 million it took to build the damn thing.
Well, there's always that, I'm going to make this food, the whole 9 yards, and I'm going to sell it to you. And then I get hit by some kind of fee bill or whatever. Then I'm going to
storm
or a tariff to send it over here, send it over here to America. Yeah, that cost is going to fall down into your pocket. Yeah, there's a lot of ways that they're going to pass the buck. But I also want to bring up the USAID, Inflation Reduction Act. And do you think the money is going to disappear for this?
It's a big question right now as to what
because this is federal,
right.
not state.
Correct. Well, I mean, it's taxpayer money that they're distributing, that the federal government is distributing.
Yeah,
so we're paying for it.
No matter what, if it's federal,
going
state,
in this ear or out the other. I mean, one way or another,
it's coming out of your pocket.
But one of the things about wind and solar energy and miscellaneous other projects that is often overlooked is how good is the product if it has to be subsidized by the federal government. I want to know if any of these companies could stand on their own 2 feet and provide a project out of their own pocket and make it actually cost effective for the people to get a benefit from that project. But I debate that they can, because I believe the only reason why a lot of these projects exist is because of billions, hundreds of billions of dollars in Inflation Reduction Act money and USAID money that is being funneled into subsidizing many of these green energy companies that ultimately, like I said, you're paying for it going in or you're paying for it going out. But one way or another, we're all damn paying for it. I just would like to see an honest company stand on their own damn 2 feet and provide a product that's worth a damn, because anybody else who goes into business that isn't a billionaire needs to be able to provide a product that's worth a damn.
And then if it is worth a damn, sometimes the government might come in there, swoop it up, and take it from you.
Well, there's always those kind of things that can certainly happen. But the bottom line here is what is our benefit? Honestly, the term is overt benefit, because an overt benefit means that if you have a business, your customer gets a good value for his money,
and they're wanting to come back.
The business makes a fair profit off of the customer, and everybody's happy. If everybody's happy, then I don't see any problem with any of this. But I debate that this isn't having federal subsidies just to create it, which is once again our tax money paying for a project like this, which of course some people are jumping up and clicking their heels together saying, woohoo, we can take taxpayer money to create a project that's actually maybe in the long run costs us more money for the utility bill than what we're paying now with the coal and natural gas fired power plants, which doesn't do us any good.
Right. It's just like all those charging units that they had to hook up generators to them just to charge your car. Right.
Well, they were supposed to do what, $7 billion or something in doing charging stations, 50,000 charging stations, and they actually built 7 charging stations. But the other thing about these projects of type is when they are expired, or when there's a natural disaster, or when there is any other kind of a problem that causes this facility to be no good or not producing energy anymore, I think that the county should require at a minimum of a $2 billion bond that the company putting this up has to put up, and it has to be in perpetuity. Otherwise, the county is going to have to foot the bill for what could turn out to be a massive Superfund site if this thing has some kind of a big giant hailstorm that comes through that we generally don't get around here. I get that, but old Mother Nature has her own ways of doing things.
Well, of course, around here we get freak storms and 80, 90, 120 mile an hour microbursts of wind. So it should be built structural enough to be able to pass engineer test on something like that. But at the same time, everything I was reading this morning before we did this podcast, everybody out there, I was reading about, how to recycle it. Well, there's not too many damn ways about recycling it. And it becomes toxic waste for the most part. I mean, everything led down to toxic waste. Pretty much the only thing you can recycle is pretty much just the glass. The rest of it's just toxic waste. And that's a real bummer. It's not really a renewable source with the 100% rating that we want. And yes, it's nice to, lean back on some of these new age technologies, but don't rely on them, because we know that we can't get rid of oil, because if so, you wouldn't be able to listen to me. You wouldn't be able to watch this, because your phone, it was made with oil. Everything, your clothes, gone, see ya, bye. I mean, we need to stay there until we can figure out how to be able to do that. And I'm pretty sure the government has already done that, but they're just hiding it from us. We're catching up with the technology and times very slowly as they allow us.
Well, you mentioned renewable. And
renewable.
One of the things about
I didn't say sustainable.
No. One of the whole things about, energy systems and our industrialized world is when you start cutting out a whole section of what creates the capabilities of production of giant wind turbines and the huge amount of steel that has to be forged and fabricated to be able to put up one of those towers that just holds a wind turbine, and the structure systems that create solar panels. Now, it's kind of been well documented that without oil and gas and coal, you can't build any of those systems.
Correct.
You're relying on basically still the oil and gas, and I guess I hate using the term fossil, but the fossil fuel industry is what has created your ability to build a product that you're calling renewable. And the only renewable part about it is the sun comes up every day, and that's it. But if you can't build another solar panel or wind turbine with the energy that your solar panels and wind energy create, then it isn't renewable at all.
Hey, that's very well spoken from a man that is on top of this and so many other topics. Like the war on beef. You have another thing coming up on war on beef. When is this?
The day before this Saguache
okay,
meeting.
So February 27th in La Jara.
In La Jara, and it's also on going to be on Zoom. Our guest speaker, who did actually drive all the way up from Texas to come and speak at my conference in October, is going to be Zooming in his call for this meeting, and his name is Shad Sullivan. He is the property rights chair for the RCAF USA, which is a independent cattlemen's association, and he does a presentation about the war on beef, which is, particularly since COVID, there's been tens of thousands of small ranching facilities and ranching companies and family-owned beef and sheep and pig farms that have gone under because of extraordinary regulations.
I was going to say rules and regulation.
Land acquisitions, conservation easements.
Yep.
And eminent domain being put on the land to put in, believe it or not, power transmission corridors.
And that's exactly what we're having coming through the San Luis Valley, isn't that right?
Now, I don't believe so far anyway, from what I've seen of the power corridors going through here, it really does look like it's just an upgraded version of what we already have. It might be able to carry a certain amount more power than what we currently have going through the system. But unlike these quadruple tower, each tower is 100 feet at the base, kind of giant towers that are that they're proposing to run through Kansas and Oklahoma.
Whoa, yeah.
Oh, yeah, and all through what they call the Grain Belt Express.
Eminent domain.
And they're using eminent domain and or basically forcing landowners to just basically take it. And in the corridors that are going through particularly in Kansas and southeastern Colorado, are a minimum of 5 miles wide. 5 miles wide.
Yeah, and then so they go 5 miles wide through a freaking like 1,000-acre field that they're growing corn or cattle.
Yep.
And then they can't cross that.
Nope.
And
that's closed off.
It's all closed off, so they lose the back ass end of their freaking property on top of it, or all of it.
5 miles wide could be it could be 4 farms.
Dude, that's a city around here in San Luis
and then
Valley.
all in a row, we're talking hundreds of thousands of, millions of acres of prime farmland being dozed under to put up power transmission corridors.
Yeah.
Well, fortunately, there's good news about some of these transmission corridors that county commissioners, the new pulling of some of the funding under the new administration is pulling some of the funding that's going to stop some of those transmission corridors. It's already stopped. There was 9 proposed for Oklahoma, and now it's down to 3. And it still is a proposal that's at least for 3 transmission corridors through Oklahoma. But there's a lot of crazy stuff going on with these transmission corridors, and one of them is a loophole that not a whole lot of folks know about. The NEPA studies that are required to put up these systems and then the solar farms and wind turbine systems are being able to be circumvented and not have to do those NEPA studies if you build your wind turbine farm or your solar farm within 5 miles of a transmission corridor that can carry a certain amount of megawatts.
So they're giving you like
It's a free pass. Is what it is.
Well, it's bribery. It's extortion. It's manipulation technique tool.
It's a loophole in the system that if there is a transmission corridor put up that can carry a certain amount, a specified amount of megawatts, that means that the energy company that wants to put in solar and wind development doesn't have to go through a single environmental impact study.
And these laws are being passed by your government?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So government is in bed with big business.
And the energy companies.
Yep. So.
Well, some of that is being circumvented as we speak.
Well, I know. And thank God. Thank God.
Lee Zeldin and the EPA is pulling the plug on that rule immediately, but that is one that is going down with not being able to just streamline these crazy projects that really aren't even reliable. I mean, when the wind don't blow, the wind turbines don't do nothing.
So these companies that I mentioned earlier, from it's HORUS Capital, Howers Energy, Howers Capital, a London-based, London-based Providence equal firm. So it's outside of the United States. All this money is already coming from outside the United States. It sounds really, really freaking fishy to me, and it really stinks because I think maybe our congressmen and our congressmen and women, maybe so, but I'm talking about our county commissioners are have been patrolled and spoke to, and probably even maybe persuaded to push this way. What do you call that word?
It's called a kickback.
Reading, I mean, like, everything's getting kind of screwed up right now, and people are beating around the bush, giving false narratives, the whole 9 yards. And right now, we just need to stay aware and stay attention, stand up for all this. And just don't forget the past and what they said in the past, because a lot of people out there can't remember a week ago on the news, much less a few months back or a year back when they started proposing the other solar stuff, right, with the big tower, right? And they had the light.
Oh yeah, out in the Nevada area.
And they had one here, right, that was proposed.
Yep, they tried to do the same thing
and it got cut down. So hopefully we can say that there's going to be a stop to this because of the what's happening in the federal government right now. One way, form, or fashion, maybe we can stand up and talk to our county commissioners, our so-called elective people that oversee and pass laws for us, but they're going to pass what they want to pass if you don't stand up and go and talk to them. And the more the merrier to get out there and go talk to them, the better chances you're going to get what you want than just letting them do what they want, because you elected them to do it. So get off the couch, come down to the Road and Bridge Friday, February 28th from 6 to 7 at the Road and Bridge in Saguache County. If not, they will be having a Zoom meeting, a Zoom link here coming up here soon. They are in the process right now. Before I got on, they are still in the process of working all that hiccup out. And from what I know, it's kind of crappy reception. So it's just best to just show up. I'm going to try to catch it here at the house so I ain't got to drive from 6 or 7 p.m. in the evening, okay? But at the same time, I want to turn my attention back to Josh Lowenstein and want to say thank you, Josh, for coming out and sharing some of that information with us and keeping us aware of what's going on here. And even though that you live in Conejos County, but you drive all the way up here to Saguache County to keep us on our toes, because that's just the type of dude he is. You know what I mean? So don't forget what is going down in La Jara. On what day is that going down again, Josh?
That's Thursday.
Okay.
So this coming Thursday at 6 p.m. at the La Jara Senior Center, which is at 413 East Main Street. And it will also be on Zoom. If you go to Facebook and look up Josh Lowenstein, there's going to be the links there for how to catch that meeting on Zoom. And that's what we got to say. And I really appreciate it. If you can attend in person, that's great. And Shad Sullivan is just a wonderful speaker. He definitely is in the trenches in the cattle industry. So he can, to all you cattle folks in particular, and anybody who likes a good burger or steak, he's the guy to talk to about that.
So this is at the senior center, and that doesn't mean that you have to be a senior citizen to show up. So all you young people out there, I recommend, and I want to see you there, 413 East Main Street. And I will send the Zoom link information up above and his website and everything that you need to know about Josh Lowenstein here coming up. And I'll leave the links up above in blue. And I just want to say thank you.
Appreciate it, Jeff. Thanks for having me on.
You've heard this right here on Creststone Podcast Radio. CPR, your lifeline to the true news on God's green earth with Jeff Winsett and Josh Lowenstein.